Hi guys, welcome back to Sacred Vedic Astrology. My name is Samantha and I feel so blessed and truly so lucky to be a professional Vedic astrologer. Today we are trying out a new form of content and we're going to look into a Vedic astrological snapshot of the week of October 13th going into October 20th. So the reason I'm doing it for this week specifically is because we have some major astrological shifts coming up in sidereal astrology. We have Venus debilitated, we have the Sun debilitated, we have Jupiter shifting into Cancer, which Jupiter loves Cancer, right? So we have a lot going on astrologically in terms of planetary influences. All right, so I thought it would be really interesting for us to look at the snapshots of the Vedic astrology and discuss what this will show for us collectively. All right, so we have the daily charts pulled up here. So let us actually move this. I'm going to move this to today, and then I'm going to move back around to some other days where we have major shifts in the transit. So we're starting here with October 13th. All right. So we have Venus today debilitated in Virgo. All right, so a major shift that we're going to experience this upcoming month is Venus and its debilitation of Virgo, which just moved out of Leo into Virgo, right? So Venus was with Ketu and it was in the sign of Leo for the past month. And that was a very interesting time period because Ketu is like a void, it's like a drain. Ketu is spiritual, it's strange, it's otherworldly, it's confusing, it's the past. So Venus was with Ketu for a good while, and we felt collectively like there were so many people from the past coming back, either like physically or spiritually or in the dream space. And I made a little post about this on Instagram, and I was like, oh my God, like Venus with Ketu, how many of you had people from the past come back? And everyone was like, me. So basically, we're coming out of that Venus-Ketu energy, which was very past-focused in connection to relationships, money, beauty, art, creativity. It's like a very past energy we just got out of, right? And Ketu is like a drain, so it could have also really drained some of us financially. Like maybe we spent too much money, put too much money into frivolous things, right? Ketu can really be a void as well, too. And there might have been some sort of sense of this like spiritual energy towards Venus as well too, maybe like creative, spiritual merging, right? Maybe we had some interesting creative ideas that were more driven by spirituality. Maybe we ran into some people that felt familiar or karmic or fated or like we knew them in another lifetime, right? Venus with Ketu. So now Venus has shifted into Virgo, which is Venus's debilitation, right? So Venus doesn't love Virgo, right? It doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that when Venus goes into Virgo, it takes on this more practical, pragmatic approach to relationships, to love, to creativity, to beauty, to money, to finances, right? So now we're in this energy where there's this more structured, pragmatic, practical approach to Venus, right? We might be thinking about our finances in a more structured way. We might be reevaluating our money. We might have a desire to make more money in a more structured, practical, pragmatic way. All right. Venus is debilitated in Virgo, but it's going to bring us an energy of a more practical approach towards it. So if there's something that you want to do financially, now is a great time to strategize, to plan, to figure it out in a more structured way, right? If there's like a creative project, a creative idea you have, first of all, I wouldn't launch it when Venus is debilitated. Absolutely not. No way. It would be a good time to get more structured around it. So like maybe planning, organizing a creative project, putting in the more disciplined, structured, behind the scenes work that is needed for something to thrive if it is in the realm of creativity. Also, we can see right now that Venus is pretty close to Saturn in opposition, right? Venus is about 5 degrees, Saturn is 2 degrees. So there's also this Saturnian influence onto Venus that we feel specifically today as I'm filming this. We're going to have this opposition the whole time that Venus is debilitated in Virgo, but it's not going to be so tight in degree orb, so we're not going to feel it as much. But we still do have Venus opposite Saturn. sits in Virgo. So Saturn is also practical, pragmatic, disciplined, structured. So now we also get that Saturnian influence towards Venus. So now it's like we're definitely reevaluating finances, beauty, love, relationships, connections. And something we do need to watch out for at this time while Venus is debilitated in Virgo is being overly nitpicky or critical towards ourselves, towards others, towards relationships, towards beauty. There might be some sense of wanting to pick things apart at this time, right? Maybe we see a flaw in someone else and we just want to really like pick at it or focus on it or pinpoint it. Maybe we see some sort of flaw in ourselves, like, oh, I don't look the way I want to look right now. I don't this, I don't that, I don't blah, 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 and this and that and the other, right? So that Venus debilitated in Virgo can really be this nitpicky energy as well too. So we have to watch for that this month. Okay. Try not to like pick apart, be too critical about things that aren't important, right? The higher octave of Venus in Virgo is like, okay, I'm going to be pragmatic and, focused on something that is necessary, but not using it in a way where we're like tearing apart someone's looks and our own looks and, being too critical in that way. All right. So that's definitely something to watch this week as we have Venus in its debilitation. All right. So that's really important. And again, this is not a time that I would like release a creative project by any means, but I would say this is a great time to structure, format a project, especially if it's creative. Rework finances, restructure financial security, like that. Okay. Now let us change the day. Okay, so let us go to October 17th because this is the next day we're going to have some major shifts. So October 17th, we're going to have the sun move into Libra. So now Venus is debilitated, the sun is debilitated, right? So now we have some sun issues. We might have some issues with leaders, leadership, authority, boss figures. There can be some conflict. And sun is also with Mercury and it's with Mars. So now that sun energy, the sun doesn't love Libra and Mars does not love Libra either. And these are two karakas for like confidence, leadership, political energy, leaders. So we can definitely see some political issues, upheaval issues with political leaders specifically, right? People are fed up or there's going to be some revelations that come out around leaders around the world because of that sun debilitated, right? It doesn't mean it's going to happen right on the day the sun moves into Libra, but I do feel like while that sun is debilitated with Mars, there can be some friction or tension going on politically. Absolutely. And with the sun debilitated, we have to watch for our confidence and ego at this time, right? There can be some ego clashing. There can be some either lack of confidence or like too much confidence, right? When the sun is debilitated, it's just not necessarily acting in its highest form. So this is a time I would say avoid unnecessary conflict, avoid arguments as much as you can. If it's not worthwhile, like don't engage in it. People might be a little bit more feisty, argumentative at this time with sun with Mars, sun debilitated. Not a time you want to start unnecessary fights or friction. Okay, so I definitely watch for that with the sun debilitated. Now we do have this interesting saving grace where Mercury's in Libra, Venus is in Virgo, and that creates a Parivartan Yoga actually. So Venus loves Libra, Mercury loves Virgo. So now at this time, we actually have some relief around Venus-Mercury energy. So I would say this can be a great time for like creative writing. This could be a really good time for getting our ideas into a written form, communicating or expressing some sort of creative idea could go well at this time. And I would also say there's going to be some focus on our communication and the way we express ourselves with being a little bit softer, more diplomatic, right? Like we have to work on that at this time as well too, because the sun, Mercury, and Mars are all in Libra, which is a very diplomatic sort of energy, a very relationship focused energy. So this would actually be a really great time to try to work on our communication in connections, in relationships, to try to figure out the best ways to express things without hurting or harming other people, trying to be more of that Libra energy, more Venusian, more soft, more like that. All right, so definitely a major theme of relationships, communication, not being too critical, trying to express or communicate in better ways will be a major theme as well too. Okay, this is a time I would try to avoid like flying off the handle or being overly aggressive in our speech as well too. Okay, so that Parivartan Yoga will bring us some relief and will help us out there with our communication, creative communication, relationships. We're trying to work on that, work through that, okay? But I do feel like financial focus can still be a little bit, it can just feel right now like we have to really hone in and be more pragmatic or practical to our financial approach, all right? Okay, so let us shift now to when Jupiter moves into Cancer. So October 18th, now Jupiter has gone into the sign of Cancer, and that's really powerful. So this is going to be a brief shift, right? Jupiter is going to be in Cancer only until December 5th, and then it's going to go back and retrograde into Gemini. So we have this brief window where Jupiter is going to really shine its energy, right? When a planet goes into a sign that it loves, it means that the energy is like activated, it's good, it's working, it's flowing, it's seamless, it just works better, right? So that means that philosophy, spirituality, travels, spiritual trips can go well at this time. This can be a great time to find a teacher, a guru, a guide. This can be a great time to learn, go back to school, educate yourself, especially if the learning is more like Jupiterian. Like, for example, if you want to take a yoga class or train to be a yoga teacher, great time to do it. If you want to take a Ayurvedic course, great little window to do it, sign up for it. Jupiter themes can go really well. Guides, teachers, wisdom, teaching. If there's anything you want to teach others, this can be a really great little window for that as well too. And Jupiter is in the Punavasya Nakshatra, which means return to the light. So we can also feel some lightness, some hopefulness, some optimism collectively, right? We're going to feel more like hopeful, a lot more faith-based. This is a great time to do religious, spiritual activities, donation, like that. All right, so a really positive little shift when Jupiter goes into Cancer. It's very brief, but it's going to be powerful, right? And it's also going to activate some new blessings in everyone's chart. Because Jupiter has been in Gemini, but we're going to have this brief little period where it's like, okay, now Jupiter is expanding a new house for a little bit, and we can really focus and have some blessings around that house as well, too. All right. The one downside of Jupiter becoming so strong in Cancer is we do have to watch for being overly optimistic, naive, or too trusting as well too. So I would say it's going to be an important window to also use our discernment and not be overly optimistic, overly idealistic, right? We are going to feel like hopeful, spiritual, philosophical. We might be wanting to learn or teach spiritual topics to some degree, but it's also time that we have to watch out for like excess, being naive, or overly trusting in others as well. All right, so that will be on the 18th, and that will be a really beautiful energy, right? And I would really look to your chart to see what house that's going to activate, because you'll get some blessing or expansion there as well too. All right, and that is going to be the snapshots of the week. We have some pretty interesting shifts going on, right? Sun is debilitated, Venus is debilitated, but then Jupiter is going to thrive in Cancer. And then we also have that Parivartan Yoga between Mercury and Venus. So it's a lot of mixed energy, right? I would say the best advice for this week, a little snapshot energy, is try not to be too nitpicky or critical of ourselves and others, right? Try not to be too harsh with Venus themes, especially love, relationships, beauty, all of those things. We can find ourselves being very like critical in those spaces. I would definitely not recommend getting like beauty treatments or like major shifts to our looks while Venus is debilitated. I would wait to release creative projects until Venus moves into Libra. And I would say it's a time to really watch any sort of clashes with our ego, being too much inner ego, or also not having enough confidence with that debilitated sun. I would say it's a great time to restructure our finances, restructure what we're looking for in relationships going forward, being a little bit more practical and pragmatic, but not overly analytical or nitpicky. And this will also be a great time to plan or structure a creative project or a creative idea to bring it into fruition over the next couple months, right? Like, this would be a great month for planning a creative project, planning a change to our beauty or relationships like that, but not necessarily the time to implement or make some big change while Venus is debilitated. All right, and that Mercury-Venus Parivartana Yoga is going to show that we can feel very inspired to write something creatively, or our mind can feel more creatively activated, right, to some degree. And also we are going to be working on our communication and our expression in a more harmonious or diplomatic way as well too. All right, so I would say this is a time period to get your words and your speech and your expression out in a way that is more harmonious and diplomatic as opposed to too harsh, right? What is that quote where it's like you catch more, what is it? I'm forgetting it, but it's about like catching more with honey as a, you know, so it's like basically saying like if you speak something sweetly, you can probably get your message out and get further than when you speak with harshness, right? And so I think that's really a takeaway of this energy right now, is like the way we express ourselves, the way that we communicate with others. If we do it in a way that's more harmonious or soft or thought out as opposed to just impulsive, we can probably get a lot further at this time as well too. All right. So let me know if you guys enjoyed this weekly snapshot of the energy and any observations you guys have down below. I know a lot of you guys also study Vedic astrology, so feel free to comment anything you see about this week as well too. I would absolutely love that. And you can always book a personal reading in the link in my bio. And don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for more content coming soon as well. And always open to suggestions. If you guys have any specific content or videos you want to see, feel free to comment that as well too. All right, sending all the best vibes, and we will talk soon. Bye guys.